I am your co-host, Kevin C. Meggett,
And I am Joe Bello.
a.k.a. Commissioner Joe. Joe, welcome back, man.
Thank
we got a lot to unpack.
Sure do.
We haven't been here. Last time we spoke was prior to
Right after Election Day.
right after Election Day. That's right.
Yeah.
And then you had Veterans Day and all those good things that came. So let's unpack Veterans Day first.
Yeah, Veterans Day was great. We had, here in New York City, we had great weather.
Yep, sure did.
It
Oh
was
my
a
gosh.
beautiful day. The parade was great. A lot of people came out. It was interesting in some of the things you see. There was some booing of some elected officials. That was interesting.
Yes.
So that was
Some. I think elected officials were afraid to walk the red carpet.
yeah, well, yeah.
They were getting that, though.
There were rumors, the mayor was not seen on the red carpet, but he somehow was in the parade. So
Resurfaced or
he suffered somewhere. Yeah. So, but I mean, it was a great parade.
well,
Great day.
say what you want, but he ain't stupid.
But it was a great parade. We went to and you joined us. We were at Golden Corral afterwards.
Yes. Golden Corral was
Big shout out to Golden Corral here in the
yes.
Bronx.
They did a great job.
Yeah, and a lot of people.
Well, I
went to
didn't
a
do
lot
the
of
parade.
events.
I didn't. For practically 12 years, I've marched up and down Fifth Avenue. I had to.
So what'd you do this year?
I went. I hung out with the Bronx VA. They had a nice ceremonial thing for veterans. It was really nice. They were kind of giving away. They had food. They had entertainment, and so shout out to the Bronx VA and especially my guy Sean Kingston. They did a really, really good job. Your wife was there too, so
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
She said they had a great time.
I had a great time. Did you see the footage?
I saw some of it. Yeah, I look again. Not everybody can get to the parade, and you appreciate that they do some things. The Bronx VA, the other space. There's other events going on all across the city to celebrate veterans.
So for those that don't know, they had this entertainment piece, and this beautiful woman came up there and she started dancing. So what was I going to do? I started dancing with her back. So and everyone took out their phones and they were recording me. I had such a great time.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to them doing it again next year.
Yeah, that's great.
It was really good.
Yeah.
So I know what the parade looks like. I've been there with great weather, horrible weather.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I have worked that parade for, this was my 28th or 29th year.
Oh, wow.
I got to look back at my records, but I think I'm one of the oldest or the oldest currently, working the parade,
Right.
left from I remember back in the 90s, it was a very different time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Again, I'm glad with the leadership there at the United War Veterans Council, shout out to them, and what they put together every year, because it just feels like it's gotten better and better. And, for me, it feels like a real, reunion. People you haven't seen that are in other boroughs or away. And, it's almost like other parades. People come from out of town to come to be in the parade, and you get to catch up with people.
Absolutely.
So, it's good. But the parade has been somewhat of a victim of its own success, too, because now there's other parades in all the 5 boroughs that they do Veteran Day parades as well.
Right.
And I think that's wonderful, because you have a lot of older veterans that just can't make it to the city parade.
To the city, that's correct.
And they come, so it's really good.
The only thing, if I had to critique the parade, the only critique that I really, really have is that, I'm big on this whole elitism thing when it comes to veterans. It should be, elitism should not exist in the veteran community. And to give you a good example, and this is just me with I have now my tinfoil kufi on, the big companies are on floats.
Yeah.
Right? Verizon, AT&T, New York City, they all on floats and they're waving, right? What are the veterans doing? Marching. Shouldn't it be the other way around?
No, I mean, all fairness, and I'm gonna defend a little bit here. I get your point, but I'm gonna defend a little bit. They do have veterans on those floats, whether they work for those companies or not.
Gotcha.
Some of them do have particular floats that they'll put an individual veteran on it, particularly if they're an older veteran. We had a number of World War II veterans this year.
Oh, wow.
At the parade, so. They either somebody was wheeling them or they were up on the float waving everybody as it goes by. So, I mean, I get what you're saying about the corporate aspect of it,
Right.
but they do have their own. Those companies do have veterans as well, so
Okay, well.
they do take care of
So
them.
I stand corrected. It's just an observation.
No, I got you. No, I mean, I understand that.
So, listen, the big news is, how is everything going to change? We gotta. Don't we have a new VA czar?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've been paying attention, President-elect Trump announced Representative Doug Collins from Georgia is going to be the prospective next VA secretary. He has been a proponent of Trump's policies when it comes to veterans, particularly around going back to the Mission Act. It's going to be very interesting how that bumps up against what he wants, what the president wants, his views, and where does Project 2025 sit in that?
Mm. Well, we got to strap in, and I'm not going to be silent. I've said this plenty of times. I will work with President-elect Trump where I can, but I guarantee you I'm going to oppose him where I need to. And if he's moving against my interests, I'm going to be vocal about it.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, we do know
respectfully.
Well, yeah, but we do know. I mean, let's be honest. We do know certain policies that were not implemented back during the first Trump administration are most likely going to resurface. I think the biggest one that, in the conversations I've been having in the past week, have been, if you recall, there was supposed to be possible closures of hospitals or realignments, and then Senator Tester, along with other senators, just didn't go along with it. It never happened.
Right.
If you recall, back then they had talked about closing the Brooklyn and Manhattan VA hospital.
Yep.
So there is a sense, a very uneasy concern about that. Not just, I mean, there's hospitals, there's VA medical centers across the United States, but for here in New York City, definitely Brooklyn and Manhattan.
What is his objective, other than it's prime real estate in Manhattan and probably prime real estate
in Manhattan
and Brooklyn as well? But what is the objective of closing or the privatization of VA? It can't really lead to better service.
Well, this goes to back.
There's no studies that said that would support. Oh, if you privatize, it'll be better.
Well, it's weird because on one hand, the Mission Act was, so let's say I needed an appointment and they couldn't give me an appointment for over a month, or I lived in a rural area where the travel would take me X amount of time to get to a particular VA medical center or CBOC, then the VA would pay for that care. So on some level that has worked, on other levels it has not. Kind of the conversation has been because of if you're going to see a private practitioner, they do not have the cultural competency experience to understand a veteran's issues,
right,
around those things. They're just there to do the job they're to do. It's not the VA. But again, there's a thought that it's weird because on one hand, veterans say if they can see a private doctor, they would like to do that. But then when they're surveyed about how their service they're getting at VA medical centers, I think it's over 90% say they like the service they're getting at the VA.
Well, I, for one, kind of don't have any issues with my care.
Oh, neither do I.
At the VA.
Yeah.
In fact,
you go to the Bronx VA, right?
I go to the Bronx.
I go to the Manhattan VA.
I have no issues whatsoever. Like, I don't wait long for appointments. They tend to my needs. I mean, it's good service.
Yeah.
So I feel like why go anywhere else? What if now I don't want to go to an outside doctor?
Yeah.
So-called. I don't know. I think in my mind, when you have privatization is putting money before here, because it comes down to how much money you're saving.
Yeah.
With anything. I mean, we get to, in this particular case, we're talking about hospitals and care. They're going to cut a couple of corners to save that money, especially if it's privatized, because the VA is the second largest agency that's funded
in the federal government. Yeah.
Oh, that's anyone from the private sector, that's their dream.
Yeah.
And how can I cut corners and give the appearance or the illusion that we're having you have good medical service. I'm not personally, before you decide to go that route, if our show ever reaches the president elect or anyone in his cabinet, before you decide to go down that rabbit hole, please, at least at a bare minimum, do a survey. And you're not going to get if you do a survey, you're not going to get the answers in a month. Yeah. It's going to take years of data to actually support that,
I think,
claim.
And I think that's why everybody's concerned, because, like, I'll give you an example. So the president-elect just nominated Linda McMahon to become the education secretary. But he's also made statements and speeches where he's going to dismantle the education department. So which one is it? And what are we going to really oversee? And I think for veterans, that's kind of the big question. There are veterans who are like, I'd rather have some private care. But again, most veterans want, like the VA, when they're surveyed consistently over the last several years, VA care has been good care. So again, what does this secretary want to do? And this also is going to come in with Elon Musk and, what's his name, Vershwami, about what savings do they believe they're going to be able to pull from the VA. He has made some comments around disability claims, and there's been some comments
and
made.
That's not cool, because like, respectfully, to make that type of any kind of claim in a negative for disability, you would have had to first serve.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and respectfully, President-elect Donald Trump, you haven't served, so you don't know what it's like to be a veteran. You can't trivialize what veterans go through. You don't belong to our culture. You're not part of our family.
Well, I will tell you, I personally think that veterans, like Social Security, is kind of a third rail issue.
Right.
So my thing is, for me anyway, is if we start in the next 2 years to see particularly like cuts and drawdown and cancellations of things and closures, I think that's going to hurt them in the midterms, and the midterms 2 years from now.
Technically, respectfully, I don't think he cares.
He doesn't care, but when you lose the House and you lose the Senate, then he can't get anything done.
Then he can't get anything done. No.
That's going to be a problem. So I think they're going to have to tread carefully. I mean, look, if you read Project 2025, it's kind of gloom and doom, but they'll say, well, the president had no hand in that. But some of the things that are being talked about now
are kind of
from within Project 2025. So I think a lot of us are kind of in a wait and see. Certainly when Representative Collins has his confirmation hearing, there's going to be a lot of questions asked of him. I think there should be a lot of due diligence about what his views are with the VA. What's his plan? How does he foresee the VA working to help veterans? There's going to be a lot of questions moving forward, and we'll have to see where they decide to cut.
Yeah, leave VA alone. Leave it alone.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I have to throw in anything out there, I mean, we have and the VA knows this, we have a very big aging veterans population. Our World War II vets are in their 90s and 100s. Korean vets right behind them. The Vietnam vets are in their 70s and 80s now. And then you've got the Gulf War vets in their 50s, 60s. I mean, it's an aging veterans population.
Right.
That care is going to be much needed. And,
my issue has always been, we look at our adversaries, look at America's adversaries, and I doubt China, Iran, and Russia treats their veteran population the way we treat ours.
I don't know. I mean, right.
I don't know. Maybe I'll start a.
I have to look into it.
Maybe I'll start a TV show and hang out with some Chinese veterans and
some
see
Russian vets.
Yes, hang out with some Russian vets, have vodka.
We'll figure it out. We'll find out.
So how do they treat you?
Yeah, we'll find out. But yeah, I mean, look, I think for veterans, I think it's a period now where everybody's just waiting to see where.
Well, we have to be active, and we have to be active. We cannot no longer be allowed to sit on the sideline, and which we've done. We've been sitting on the sideline and kind of living on hope.
Well, I think part of the reason why, and I wouldn't necessarily say the sideline, but I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because this administration, the Biden administration, you have to give them credit. They kept it was steady leadership with Secretary McDonough.
Right.
They passed the PAC Act. They passed a number of
A lot of
bills
people
that helped vets.
benefited from.
Almost
Almost a million people benefited from
they
the PAC
continue
Act.
to draw down homelessness across the United States. So, I mean, there are a lot of good things to be said about what this VA accomplished in its 4 years. That doesn't mean there's still not work ahead of us. But, I mean, there were things there, particularly the PAC Act, and that opened up not just for the younger vets, but even the Vietnam vets. So, again, we are kind of in this holding pattern now. We know who the secretary nomination is going to be. We know, we just want to hear his views, and then we got to see what they start to implement and carry out.
Right.
Because then that's where the fight comes. I mean, if they start talking about we're gonna restart up hospital closures and all of that, then I see a real big fight coming, and I see consequences of that. So, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we can't speculate. We just got to wait and see.
Yeah,
Gotta know when to act and react. Right.
Correct. But I think it is incumbent on everybody. For me, and I've said this before, for our VSOs, the National VSOs, the American Legion, VFW, all of them, to start educating the new committees that are coming in.
I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things that I'm implementing. Like, a lot of people don't know, but for those that don't know, I'm also the commander for National Association for Black Veterans in the Bronx, 0029, and that's one of the things that what you just said that I'm trying to implement for our local chapter, because that's where the effectiveness lies in smaller organizations, peer to peer.
Yeah.
So
And
before we're going to take a real quick commercial break. Wow, time's flying.
Yeah.
We're going to take a real quick commercial. We'll be right back. This is the Veteran Report. Hi, this is Kevin C. Megan.
And I'm Joe Bello.
And you're watching the Veteran Report.
How are U.S. soldiers different from European soldiers? In Afghanistan, there was a common French saying, you better pray that you have an American in your unit. A French soldier wrote about his extraordinary experience with American soldiers in Afghanistan. If a unit was in trouble, you prayed that an American unit took up the radio call for help. When American forces picked up the call, their reply was, sit tight, we are coming to get you. There wasn't any haggling or logistic issues. The Americans were fully committed to your rescue. They came regardless of what the situation was. In fact, they wouldn't ask about specifics until they got close to your position. It often knew the threats in the area before asking what problems you were having.
Right away. So we can start
Put it now. As we're doing it.
So it's live?
So as soon as we leave, I'll forward it to you.
Okay.
A show dedicated to American veterans who served, serving, and or need services. So we're here to bring comprehensive news, and we are located. Where can they find us, Joe?
You can watch us online at Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 at www.millenniumtv.com.
You could also find us on Roku TV,
Amazon,
Apple TV,
or smart TVs,
LG Smart TV, Sony, and
Horizon Satellite Beyond Boundaries,
and most other platforms. Welcome back, Veteran Report. So, had to take a pause for the cause. Let's talk about the how all of this has kind of impacted. Like, we didn't get here by ourselves. I feel like this. I feel like Dennis McDonough did a great job. I felt like Biden did a great job, but I don't think that they really pushed that messaging across. Like, I don't think their messaging was good in terms of saying, hey, this is what we did. Like 740,000 veterans benefited from the PACT Act.
Well, I think it's funny you should mention that, because I saw today on Military Times that VA secretary did an interview, and I think as we start to come to the end before January 20th, I think that's what the secretary and others in the VA are going to start to do. I think they're going to start to tell. I agree with you. This should have been the messaging all along, but I think they're going to tell us, and they start as these interviews begin to start, as they start to wind down their times, about what they did, what they were able to accomplish, maybe even some of the things they weren't able to get done that were left on the table. I know one of them definitely was infrastructure. Right. That was a big conversation about, infrastructure and shifting demographics of veterans. And you and I have talked about that.
Sure.
So, but I think they're going to promote, for the most part, all the positives, obviously, and PACT Act is definitely one of them.
Yeah, PACT Act was a major win. I also felt like, and now, let me play devil's advocate just a little bit. One thing that President-elect Trump has done or is doing that I do like is the fact that he is making a lot of veterans inclusive in his cabinet, whereas a lot of Democrats didn't do that. Democratic committee just seemed like sometimes they're not so pro-veteran.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I have to agree with you. I mean, look, the DNC has a Veteran and Military Families Committee. And there have been people, particularly who represent the Northeast, who have been on that committee forever and a day. And I mean, I've always said, even on social media, are we going to replace them? But, again, the leadership at the time or even currently just didn't listen. And right. So, you had some new people, but you always kept kind of the old people. It's almost like the local city Veterans Advisory Board. You've got some people that have been on there for a long time. And you're like, okay, at some point it just becomes a resume filler, and you just...
Look, let's not stop there. Let's go, if we're going to go, let's go all the way for the jackpot. The same thing could be said with the commissioner.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean?
We're 5 years in now.
We're 5 years in, and Mayor Adams didn't think enough to actually replace, say, hey, I think enough of you just to put in place another commissioner.
Yeah, that has been the great disappointment, because I will tell you, and I've said this before as well, a number of us, the commissioner came in during difficult times. He came in when we were going through, he came in 6 months before a pandemic. He led the agency through the pandemic, but there was a feeling amongst the community that it was time to move on.
Right.
It was time to move on. His predecessor had left the agency with a lot of issues, and issues that I documented in my op-ed, and that didn't happen. The mayor kept him. The mayor didn't follow with any of his promises that he had made during the campaign season for mayor, which was very surprising. And 5 years later, I think a lot of the community is beginning to question, where are we now? Where are we now?
And bigger than that, he has not raised that budget one iota.
No.
Not one red penny has go. So it's almost weird. Like, it's almost like he's in a catch-22. I'm never going to take wrong and make it right. But if you give me limited resources and tell me to create a miracle, it's going to be hard for me to do that. However, my issue becomes transparency. I'd rather you just tell me, hey, look, try feeding a family with just a 1 can of corned beef hash. I could respect you for that, but don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. You know what I mean?
Just in case, for the audience, Kevin and I attended a meeting at City Hall last week. We met with the speakers people and Councilman Riley. And
that was a really great meeting.
It was a good meeting. One of the big takeaways from that meeting, I think Kevin and I agreed upon, was the lack of transparency from the agency. And I think the second thing we took of was how much I wouldn't say the committee staff, but how much the speakers people were unaware of some of the things that were happening within the community, which rightfully so. Right. I mean, let's be honest. They're doing City of Yes, migrant crisis, everything in between. But, it's like Kevin and I always like to say, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. and veterans are a population, a community. So,
and I love the fact that you say that, because we're not looked at. And I was at a grant writing class today at the Bronx VA, and the one thing that I was saying is that veterans, one of the things that we have to get on the same sheet of music and fight for is to be able to successfully identify ourselves. Now, you could check off veteran, but then there's nothing. Let's be honest. There is no veteran community. There is no veteran community. You have a bunch of fragmented people that are veterans, but we have to kind of really come together as a community and say, "I'm a vet," and wear it proud, because like at the end of the day, I tell people this: when you raise your hand, you gave that oath to protect the country from enemies, domestic and foreign. You became very special to this country at that moment.
Well, let me just
and we run away from that exception, whereas I think we should run to it. We don't run to it.
But let me add in the problem we have as well. We're not monolithic.
That's true.
And subsequently, even when we believe we get somewhat of community, we're easily fragmented from it to say there are those veterans out there who believe they can potentially get something from, let's say, the administration or from the commissioner or from someone else. They're looking out for their own interests.
That's that big vet, little vet syndrome.
You see it across like the community where they're willing to go along to get along, and you have to wonder, like, okay, so what is in it for you that you are leaving the community behind? And that has always been a challenge. I mean, even when we were creating when we were creating the Department of Veteran Services, the mayor at the time was throwing everything in the kitchen sink about, like, I'll increase the funding for the mayor's office of Veterans Affairs, I'll do this. And we literally, it was like herding cats to keep the community together from being picked off, to say, no, we want an agency. So I mean, that is one of our issues as well. We cannot always seem to get on the same page. We may agree in principle, but then there's always
what's in it for me?
Somebody who gets picked off, and then maybe I'll get on the Veterans Advisory Board and say, hey,
and they'll put one against the other. Yeah. And like, I have an issue with that. I'm glad you mentioned that. I really have a very deep issue with that. That there are veteran organizations and individuals, a lot of, and I find this a lot in, honestly, I find a lot of them in a lot of West Pointers are like that they don't care about, it's almost like they created their own little internal fraternity. Now, I'm not talking about the old school West Pointers, I'm talking about these younger ones. They don't care about nothing. They will sell veteran issues out just to get where they want to go, and it starts to create elitism. And I honestly feel that it's not just individuals. There's a lot of organizations, and I don't have to mention them. They know who they are. Yeah. They know who they are, but bigger than that, it's as a veteran and as a veteran organization, you have a responsibility, if you're going to call yourself a service provider, to take that veteran, you meet them where they at, right? And take them from poverty to prosperity.
Well, let me flip this as well. And this is where we learn a lot of it has to do with the elected officials as well.
Right.
Because when elected officials, particularly when they become mayor or, a leader, the majority of veterans in New York City are enlisted. But yet consistently we have seen a colonel, a brigadier general, lieutenant colonel as our leader. And yet we've always trying to figure out, what do they know about what's going on in the community? To understand, a lot of the issues. They may say understand some. They may have even gone through some of them themselves, particularly around transition. But there's a huge difference to what the enlisted go through and what, and it's like, to me, I get frustrated because I look at the previous mayor and the person he picked, it was almost like a shiny object. He checked off the boxes. It was, and that's what we got presented. But yet the community knew this person wasn't from New York.
Right.
And so the community acted accordingly. And that was a missed opportunity. And the same thing with this mayor. You know, he continued to keep the commissioner we have now, but then, you know, just says he's doing a great job, and there's no context to
Is he
anything
a
that goes
commission?
on.
Is because he's still serving, right? He's a commissioned officer.
Yes.
So I to your point, I understand what you're saying. Like, there's a detachment there because enlisted and officers don't hang out together. They don't. But the people in the 12 years that I've been servicing veterans, I've only serviced one officer.
Yeah.
Everyone else was enlisted. So 99% of New York City most vulnerable veterans are enlisted members.
That's right.
So you need another enlisted to identify. That's that peer-to-peer.
And to be fair, I'm not saying you can't have an officer as the leader, but we've gone through a lot of iterations.
I'm not going to be fair. I wonder. I really and fight me on this.
Yeah.
Because it's that whole elite thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, can privilege manage poverty?
Good question.
You know what I mean?
That's a good question, because
that's where I'm at.
And it's a good question in the sense that if I have to go back the previous 3 commissioners, the answer is no, and unfortunately, it's no.
Yeah.
And so that there in itself lies a problem, because now that the presidential election is over and we're into the holidays, we're about to start seeing everybody, if they haven't already, announced who's running for mayor, controller, city council. We're about to go into all our local elections.
I want you to hold that, because we're going to take another real quick commercial break, but I want you to remind me what you just said, because it's going to lead into what we're about to do on December 8th. We're going to take this real quick commercial break. The Veteran Report, we'll be right back. Hi, this is Kevin C. Meggett.
And I'm Joe Bella.
And you're watching the Veteran Report.
How are U.S. soldiers different from European soldiers? In Afghanistan, there was a common French saying, you better pray that you have an American in your unit. A French soldier wrote about his extraordinary experience with American soldiers in Afghanistan. If a unit was in trouble, you prayed that an American unit took up the radio call for help. When American forces picked up the call, their reply was, sit tight, we are coming to get you. There wasn't any haggling or logistic issues. The Americans were fully committed to your rescue. They came regardless of what the situation was. In fact, they wouldn't ask about specifics until they got close
Sean
to the
Kingston is one of the first guests I want to bring
threats
in.
in the area before
That we can put him and have him talk about all he does at the Bronx VA, promote and everything, I think he would be a great first guest. But we can talk about it. Well, maybe you might have an idea of somebody else.
We can have them sit out there, a show dedicated to American veterans who served, they're serving, and or need services. So we're here to bring comprehensive news, and we are located. Where can they find us, Joe?
You can watch us online at Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 at www.millenniumtv.com.
You could also find us on Roku TV,
Amazon,
Apple TV,
or smart TVs,
LG Smart TV, Sony, and
Horizon Satellite Beyond Boundaries,
and most other platforms.
At least I know it, and this song comes on.
They spell veteran wrong. Hey, we're back. Okay, so right before we took that quick commercial break, one of the things that we're doing together as a collective, the day after D-Day, we're hosting an event because I'm really tired of not being at the table when these issues come about. So I don't believe in following footprints. I create my own. No one's actually coming out and giving us the attention we deserve. So we're going to give ourselves our own attention. So December 8th, it's a Sunday, at the War Room in the Bronx, we're having a political forum. We want to talk about the next coming mayor, comptroller, public advocate, so forth and so on. And it's going to create an opportunity, at least 2 hours of an opportunity of veterans being able to have their voices heard and have elected officials to be there to listen. So I'm very excited about us doing this.
I am too. I mean, so just to put it out there, so we are inviting all the those announced candidates for mayor and for controller who would like to come and talk and listen. Back in the day, even Mayor Bloomberg came into an event I actually was at in Queens. And listen, a lot of things he didn't know, but he certainly got schooled.
Right.
But I also think for us, it's a potential to get veterans in a room and to get an idea of what veterans want to see the next administration take up. Even if it's Mayor Adams again, what do we want and how do we build a coalition? How do we build numbers to like straighten numbers?
And by the way, Mayor Adams, if you're listening, you're more than welcome to come down as well.
Mm-hmm. But we want to start that process as well, because the next 6 months, starting from January, leading to the primary, is going to be you're going to start getting mailers and phone calls and commercials again and everything. And as Kevin said, and he's absolutely right, we need a voice at the table. We need somebody who's going to say, yes, if I'm elected, I'm going to I'm going to listen to this community. I hear what this community is saying. And we did not get this from this administration. We are coming into 3 years, the Adams administration, and frustratingly beyond, this has not happened.
Frustrating beyond is an understatement, because I know the day after he was sworn in, I actually made the news.
Yeah, you did.
It was freezing out there, and I asked Mayor Adams, and I asked Bronxborough President Vanessa Gibson. I said, "What are your intentions to now that you've been elected, as it pertains to the veteran community?" I got a very blanket answer when it came to Mayor Adams.
Yeah. I remember that statement.
It was just it was a
boilerplate.
It was a big nothing burger. Yeah. To the Bronxborough President's credit, though, she did try to work with me on various issues. So shout out to you.
I mean, she increased the veterans. She increased the Veterans Advisory Council.
Gibson. So so you kind of did the things that you did do something, and you were inclusive. So shout out to you. But I'm it was just like it's running a hamster meal, because it's just like veterans are this low bearing fruit. But maybe it is, Joe. I mean, how many veterans are in here now? Like 100 and something thousand.
118,000.
Like you're disappearing.
That's why I laughed, because Commissioner Hendon was just at an event at DCAS, and once again he's like 200,000.
Where are they?
And it's like, okay, where are these 200,000 at? Because the census, ACS, even media outlets are all from like we've decreased from 138 a couple of years ago to now 118. Our numbers continue to drop, and why? Because it's like it's been said, and many of you have heard this. We are not veteran friendly. And I think the frustrating part is, particularly with this administration, is this mayor, when he was the state senator, was the chair of the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. He heard some of these issues, and yet we have not moved on any of them.
One iota.
And the wild part of it is, I think what's frustrating amongst the entire community is we get to that Memorial Day and Veterans Day, and it's that we've shed the blood under the tree, and all the veterans have heard this message. And the message is, okay, if we've shed this blood and you acknowledge we've shed this blood and we've watered the tree of freedom, so then where are you taking care of us who have shed the blood? And that hasn't happened. And that has been like very disappointing. I think I'm saying that with all due, it's been very disappointing.
It has. And this is kind of my whole pet peeve with President-elect Donald Trump presenting possibly the privatization of the VA, because I made my oath with the federal government. I didn't make it with the private sector. of I didn't make if my oath was made with Amazon, I may have not joined. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So I mean, don't privatize. Leave that alone. Like our veteran oath is a pact that goes all the way back to Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
The VA and the services that we get goes all the way back to Lincoln. Don't disrupt that. If you ask it for accountability and transparency, I'm all for it. Listen, you could be as transparent as you want. Let's if you think something's not working, let's try something, but leave it the way it is. That's I'm one of many voices. I'm sure there's opposing voices, but let's filter those opposing voices in against the people that want VA to remain attached to the government.
Yeah.
And move accordingly. That's what leaders do. So
Yeah.
I mean,
and again, that we want to just going back to where we were. This is going back to we want to hear from potential candidates like, look, that we're not going to be forgotten. I've always said, I said this in the first show we did. I admire the hell out of the LGBTQI community because they
know how to get things.
They know how to get things done.
Yeah.
They come together. They this is the goal, and they go towards it. Us right now, it's again we're at the herding cats where it's like you try to get some people here, you try to get some people there, and you have to hope that the commissioner, the administration, somebody isn't picking them off. Where we have to say to them, you're hurting the rest of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it's going to be a rough 6 months. And I know for me personally, I plan on calling it out all the way leading up to the election. I've realized we're going to have to be more vocal, particularly on the local level, because if we're not,
sure,
they're going to forget us. And I'm always mindful of the fact, I'll give you a real quick story. When Mayor de Blasio had first started the run for mayor, I was there at the first thing that they did where, he was talking to the audience, taking questions. I was at the next one. I traveled. I met a lot of reporters that way. By the time the campaign was in full swing,
mm-hmm,
he would see me and he would recognize me, but he totally forgot my name.
Wow.
Because the messaging wasn't just there, and then by the time he became the mayor, those of us that were hopeful he was going to pick, locally, other electeds came in and he wound up picking somebody who wasn't even from here. And everybody scratched their head about it. And because we did not have a seat at the table. So it's imperative that, coming up, we are vocal and that we have some seat at the table, even if it's like right in the corner. But we got to have a seat somewhere in this table.
As of right now, we're the most ostracized group.
Well, it's weird because we're the most thanked. I mean, everybody will sit there and say, thank you for your service. And, oh, my family member. You hear this from electeds a lot. I have a family member, sir. And I sit there and I have to wonder, okay, so then what have you learned from them? And if you're thanking us from our service, how is that thankfulness translating into policy, into things that are going to be beneficial to veterans? We have an aging veterans population here in New York City.
They're aging out.
And we have not heard, I see nothing from the Department of the Aging. I don't see anything. And it's like, then you wonder why veterans are leaving. Then you wonder why veterans are leaving New York City. Because again, we're not veteran friendly. We have a large bureaucracy as well. I have to deal with the VA, which is a large bureaucracy. Then I got to deal with the city. And a lot of vets just choose to, hey, you know what? Bluer skies in Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, and they leave.
And they get it, and for the most part, they're treated well.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay. They own a home. They don't pay property tax. We don't even get a discount on a Metro card, dude.
No.
We
tried. We tried that several years ago. We had a World War II vet leading that charge. We had something in place, and then the city just obfuscated on what it was going to do, and they wanted to focus only on student vets and left it.
I think the state gets the final say with that, but
yeah, but the city had put in funding to buy reduced, to purchase or to have reduced
for
payment
the
it's supposed to be for veterans.
Okay.
But then the city administration said, no, we'll do it for student vets. But then they wanted all this information. A lot of student vets didn't bother, and the program just fell apart. So, and then, of course, we lost the leader in that. He was a World War II vet, passed away, and that was the end of that. Yeah, I mean, look, we're coming into some times now. We got to see what's going on the federal level. You'll see what policies come down that translate down, trickle down into the local.
Yep.
And we have to see it. Again, we are definitely at the end, at this time next year, we're pretty much going to be coming into an era where we're going to have a new city council, a new speaker, potentially a new mayor,
a new everything.
new everything. And the question for the audience, anybody listening, is, particularly if you're a veteran or family member veteran, where do we fit in that
in this picture,
in that picture, in that table? Where do we fit?
Yeah, because we're constantly being cropped out of a picture we rightfully deserve to be in.
Yeah.
I digress. We're going to take a real quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back with some closing thoughts, and we'll be right back. The Veteran Report. Hi, this is Kevin C. Meggett.
And I'm Joe Bello.
And you're watching The Veteran Report.
How are U.S. soldiers different from European soldiers? In Afghanistan, there was a common French saying, you better pray that you have an American in you. A French soldier wrote about his extraordinary experience with American soldiers in Afghanistan. If a unit was in trouble, he prayed that an American unit took up the radio call for help. When American forces picked up the call, their reply was, sit tight, we are coming to get you. There wasn't any haggling or logistic issues. The Americans were fully committed to your rescue. They came regardless of what the situation was. In fact, they wouldn't ask about specifics until they got close to you.
Check on people.
They often knew the threats in the area before asking what problems were having.
A show dedicated to American veterans who served, serving, and or need services. So we're here to bring comprehensive news, and we are located. Where can they find us, Joe?
You can watch us online at Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 at www.millenniumtv.com.
You could also find us on Roku TV,
Amazon,
Apple TV,
or smart TVs,
LG Smart TV, Sony, and
Horizon Satellite beyond boundaries. I'm always like,
and most other platforms. Oh, I never pay attention to that music.
That's my cue. That's how I know.
We're back. Final thoughts. All right, we're near the holidays. Wow, time is really flying, man.
Yeah, this year's full.
It just seemed like yesterday it was hot and it was summer.
Yeah.
Putting on the air conditioner. So the holidays are amongst us, right?
Yeah.
I really want to two things. I want to wish everyone out there happy Thanksgiving. I do want y'all to check on your veterans. This is around the holidays. Suicide is very prevalent in the veteran community. Loneliness is, sets in, things like that. So a lot of them might be in shelter, don't have the closeness of family, and it's important. Like these organizations, VFW, American Legion, NAB Vets, that y'all come out and support the veteran community. We need this. We need more peer to peer. And I don't know. I think those veterans that are eligible, please register with the VA. There's a plethora full of resources in there other than medical. It's a resource center.
So for me, I think some of you, maybe a lot of you know, I lost my mother last week. And, we're coming into the holidays, and I'm kind of on a emotional roller coaster right now. So
my condolences again, Joe.
I appreciate it.
To you and your family.
I want to echo what Kevin was saying. Definitely a Veterans go through a lot of loneliness, a lot of food insecurity, a lot of things during the holidays. A lot of because it's supposed to be a joyous time, but it can be a struggle. And everybody should know you're not alone. There are services out there. For those of you that don't know, the VA is having a turkey and food giveaway, the Bronx VA.
Bronx VA,
on
that's right.
The 26th
Yep.
from 2 o'clock. So if you're in and around the Bronx VA or you need to get some food for Thanksgiving, go.
Yeah, sure.
Check on a loved one, check on a battle buddy, check on a friend. Buddy checks, be the one. Make sure that everybody's okay. And we all get through this together. But, again, it's supposed to be a joyous, and I want to echo happy Thanksgiving to all of you, to your family. I hope it's a blessed time for you all as we come into the holiday season. Well, we're already in the holiday season.
We're already in there, right?
And,
it's
again,
moving so fast.
Yeah, the years just, these months have just been flying. So, again, just check on a buddy. Check on a buddy and have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to really talk about too is besides checking on your friends and your loved ones, we need to really come together. I want to, before we end, talk about again December 8th. We are trying to galvanize veterans as a community. We don't care where you're from. There's no big I's and little U's. There's no such thing as a seniority or rank in a veteran. So I want to definitely ask that everyone that's hearing this reach out to me. My email address is Kevin C. Meggett. It's spelled Meggett @gmail.com, and ask where the War Room is on New Bold Avenue, and I will definitely give you all of the information because we need to really get our voices out there. That's kind of been something that we kind of been pigeonholed. If we could come together as a community, a real valuable community, and be taken serious as a community, we have voting power. It's something like how many millions of veterans in this country?
Think about it.
About 20 million, something like that.
But even if you wanted to add it, 118,000 veterans
here in New York
family
City,
members.
Right.
I mean, you could double it with family members, or even quadruple it.
That could determine an election.
Yeah,
a whole election could be interpreted off of that.
Absolutely.
And the time of giving us lip service is over.
We have to do
something tangible.
Yeah, we have to do something here.
We need tangible resources.
A lot of you are noticing that what we're getting is photo ops, particularly from the agency, and consistent photo ops, and that's great, but there's no tangible service behind it. And as much as we want to listen to any of the electeds that show up, we also want to hear from you guys. Like, what are you seeing in your community? What are you seeing? What do you think the biggest challenges that we are facing here in the city are? Is it homelessness? Is it mental health? Is it aging? Is it food insecurity? We want to try to come up with some sort of plan around. Look,
that's
we
a
need
real
services.
good idea. What you just said. I think when we do this, we should have a little survey and ask what means more. Like, we need to survey.
Yeah.
Because with me, my pet peeve is homelessness. Yeah. I think it's criminal. It is so criminal to say the word veteran and homeless in the same sentence. It should just not exist. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's if that's the one trigger that I have is homeless veterans. But that might not be. It could be food disparities too to some people. I don't know. So we need to kind of put our finger on it and do a tally and say, hey, these are our issues. And so when we bring this, we could bring it to the forefront because we're trying to. Joe and I we do this. We bring this show to you, but we also behind the scene do a lot of other things to move the needle. Yeah, we push. We're going to keep the needle on the record that veterans do matter, and especially in New York City, especially in New York State. especially to the United States of America. So, with that said, I think we come pretty much to the end of our show. We gotta give a big shout out to Millennium TV 24 for giving us this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can catch us on Roku, Amazon, Fire TV, Android, Apple TV, LG Smart, Sony. The list goes on and on.
That's right. Facebook.
Facebook, yeah, and we've and thank you for. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank all of our Facebook people that stop and they drop comments. We actually do read them.
We read them,
and I actually reply to some of them. So I really want to thank you. It really means a lot that we're giving you this information and you're talking back to us. So thank you for that. And it's Millennium's paying attention because the boards are like really going crazy. So thank you for that. Until the next time, this is the Veteran Report. Kevin C. Meggett,
Joe Bello,
aka Commissioner Joe.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Woo. Okay.
That's it.
Wax
Good
that.
show.
I was just searching to say what the hell.
No, you did great.
I was like, because I knew we had time.
Yeah, but you were right there. Hey, that's good.
It's like, where am I going?
Yeah, no, you were good.
So let me go back to the event.
No, and that's why I'm glad because you jogged me in my memory for like, oh, wait a minute, they got the Thanksgiving,
Yep.
the turkey giveaway and
Thank
everything.
you. We good? Thank you.
Good.
It was good. All right, you got to put it up. You got to tag us in it
On
on Facebook. You got to tag us.
Thank you.
Supposed to be your show is finished by 12. So you should finish it for
Oh, we had 3 minutes.